Shalom Akim, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shabbat Shem Rakah Kodash. Double honor to the apostles, elders, great millstone. Salute to the sincere Akim out there of the hopeful elect. All right, yeah, man. This video is just basically going to be based on the fact that we're going to have concubines of the other nations in the kingdom of heaven. All right, we're going to have concubines of the other nations in the kingdom of heaven, because you got some people that don't agree with that. You know, they don't believe that, but there's nothing wrong with that, you know, because we're Israelites. We're the sons of the living power, okay? All right, meaning we're royalty. We come from a line of royalty, okay? We're going to be a nation of kings and priests, so we're going to have the other nations under our rule, and we're going to have the pick of the litter when it comes to their woman, all right? Okay, so, you know, I know you got some dudes that are so pro-black, all right, that, you know, they don't believe in dating outside of their race or their nation, okay? You know, be it so, all right? But according to the scriptures, we're gonna deal with women from the other nations, and a lot of things that you emotional, lust-driven niggas don't understand is that it's not necessarily about because you lusting over the women of the other nations, all right, or that you hate the women of your own nation, in which the black woman is totally off. These Israelite women, these women in America, I should say, for the most part, all right, they're totally off, man. They're totally wicked, okay? And I mean, the nigger woman, all right, who was you know, talking about the black American woman, okay, she got to be the wickedest out of all of the women of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, because she stems from the head tribe, which is the tribe of Judah, okay? That's why these so-called black women are setting the trends for these other Israelite women, like the Puerto Rican woman, Dominican woman, okay? You know, the Latina women, to run around parading themselves as sluts and whores and twerking and, you know, sex trafficking and making all, you know, all kind of music videos and movies to promote themselves as such, you know, because the black woman is from the head tribe, you know, and it was big among the daughters of Israel, is that all of these women, they all into lesbianism, man. They're all gay for the most part, you know. In the nightclubs, they twerking on each other, all right. You see them in the music videos, French kissing each other, all right, like Cardi B and Nicki Minaj and all, you know, the women of our nation are just totally gone, man. Okay, all right. But the point is, we're gonna be dealing with women from the other nations, man, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna bring out a few scriptures on that, man. Okay, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21, verse 10, and this is a law on war, all right. You know, the rules on the engagement of war, okay? It reads, Deuteronomy 21:10, when thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy power has delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive, all right, in which there is going to be a race war in this society, okay? But this was going into the time period when we went out against the other nations, especially when we went into the land of Canaan. Well, when we went to the land of Canaan, the Lord told us not to deal with the women of Canaan, okay? All right? But, you know, there were other nations among Israel. You had the Edomites, you had the Moabites, the Ammonites, that all lived in that region. And we was at war basically with all of them, man. And that's why King David, he took down all of the nations, man. And best believe he had concubines of the women of the other nations, all right? Including his son Solomon, King Solomon, in which I'm going to read that later after I finish this, okay? So the Lord said, when thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and all these other nations are our enemies. If you're not a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, all right, who make up the 12 sons of Jacob or the 12 tribes of Israel, then you're an enemy, okay? The nation of Edom, which is you so-called white people, Ammon, which are you Japanese, Moab, which are you Chinese, the Hamites, which are the Africans, Elam, which is the East Indians, Ishmael, which are the Arabs, okay? Then you got the sons of Japheth, them Polynesians and Hawaiians and them Australian Aborigines. Those are all enemies, man. Those are our enemies, okay? We're not to befriend any of them people, man. All right? They don't look at us as their brother or their kindred, because we're not close of kin. Okay? All right? So when we go to war with our enemies, it says, "In the Lord thy power," all right, whose name is Yahweh and his son's name is Yahweh Shai, has delivered them into thine hands, meaning we defeat our enemies, okay? And thou hast taken them captive. Yeah, because when we defeat our enemies, of course, we're going to enslave them, all right? We're going to force them to do things according to our will, all right? And in the righteous kingdom, we're going to force them to do things according to the will of the Most High, meaning they're going to be forced to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, all right? It reads on to say, "And seest among the captives a beautiful woman," all right? So some of these women from the other nations are beautiful, man, and you brothers can't front like you haven't seen some fine-looking Edomite or so-called white woman, Caucasian woman, all right? Like Umar Johnson, man. He talks all this pro-black, black power shit, all right? But this nigga be getting caught up in scandals. It's been rumored or said that he be fucking with white bitches, man. Okay? All right? So all you extra pro-black, those be the main ones you got to look out for, man. Them super pro-black niggas, man. Okay? Everything just got to be black. All right? The black family, the black this, the black that. Those probably be the main ones that be out there fucking with them white broads, man. All right? Okay, but you got the women of Moab that be looking real good. I'm talking about the real Moabite women, okay? Like out there in Thailand and Vietnam and all that, man. All right? I ain't talking about them bitches from the Chinese restaurant, man. Okay? With the flat ass and the flat breasts. All right? I ain't talking about them. I'm talking about the fine looking ones, man. That come from like South Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, and all of that. Okay? All right? It says, and when you seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and has a desire unto her, because we're Israelites. We desire a woman. We're into women. All right? Most Israelite men are into women. Okay? With the exception of a few of you niggas who are homosexuals, man. All right? Especially this new generation. But we're not like the white man. Like Apostle Tahar said at camp, it could be a fine looking woman walking towards your direction, right? And by the time y'all cross paths and she passes you by, the black man's gonna look back. He's gonna look back and he's gonna check out her backside, man. He's gonna see if she got a fat butt, all right? Because that's what men are into, Israelite men. But the white man, on the other hand, a fine looking woman could be walking towards his way, and as soon as she crosses his path and she passes him, he doesn't look back, man. He doesn't acknowledge her, man. Okay? Because he's not into women. The so-called white man is not into women because he's gay. All right? Okay? But you so-called black men, you so-called Hispanics, when a woman walk by you, you gonna turn around and look at her backside and see if she thick, if she holding, man. Okay? Because we desire women. All right? Because we're not homosexuals. Okay? It says, and when you see us among the captives a beautiful woman and has a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to wife. Okay? That don't mean walk down the aisle with her, put a ring on her finger, get on bended knee and propose to her. Okay? That means if you desire her because you want to pop her. All right? I mean, the word wife means is another word for concubine in this particular chapter and verse. Okay? All right? Meaning she's your woman that's in captivity. All right? See, the Israelite woman is going to be your wife, but she's not going to be in captivity. Okay? She's going to be in order, but she ain't going to be in captivity. The women of the other nations that are your concubines, okay, you're going to do the same thing as far as plowing her like you would plow your wife in the bed, all right? But the women of the other nations are going to be in captivity. They ain't going to have a goddamn choice, okay? They ain't going to have a choice. You want to call that rape or whatever you want to call it, or however you want to define it as you may, as you want, as you wish, okay? But this is what the scriptures say. I'm reading this out of the Bible, all right? So if you desire one of these women of the other nations, they ain't gonna have a choice but to lay down with you, man. All right? Okay? It says, then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall put on the raiment of her captivity from off of her, and shall remain in your house and bewail her father and her mother a full month. All right? Yeah, because this is during, remember, this is the rules of the engagement of war. All right? Okay? So, back in the days when we went to war with the other nations and we defeated them, we would take their women, all right? We would take their women captive and make them concubines, and we would give them a time period, a month, to mourn their father and their mother, because you probably done slaughtered their families, man. Okay? You would shave her head and pare her nails, and in a month, her hair would grow back. Okay? Her hair would grow back, her nails and all of that, or whatever. Okay, then she take off her raiment for mourning, and then you put something sexy on her, man, to arouse you, and then you handle your business with her. All right? It says, and after that thou shalt go in unto her and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife, meaning she shall be your concubine. All right? She's not going to be on the status of an Israelite woman in the kingdom of heaven. Okay? She's going to be your concubine, man. All right? Meaning she's going to be in captivity. And this is the book of 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 1. It says, but King Solomon loved many strange women. All right, and Solomon is the king of Israel, was the son of David, a righteous man, a righteous king who was renowned for his wisdom. The Most High imparted to him great wisdom to judge the nation of Israel. Okay, it says, but King Solomon loved many strange women, meaning women of the other nations. All right, together with the daughter of Pharaoh. All right, which Pharaoh's daughter is an Egyptian, Mitzrayim, which come from out of the nation of Ham. So we're going to deal with Hamites in the kingdom of heaven, Hamite women, okay? All right, and they ain't going to be all stinking funky like how they are now out here in Babylon, or how they living out there in Africa, all right? They're going to be clean because, like I said, out of the women of the other nations, we're going to get the pick of the litter. And guess what? Like I said this in another video, right? Me and the brother Shemayawan did. We did a video. We were breaking down this same chapter and verse. All right. The women of the other nations, we're gonna get the pick of the litter of them, and guess who's gonna be picking them? You Israelite women, our wives. Our Israelite wives are gonna be picking a lot of these other women of the other nations to be our concubines. Okay, because that's how involved and how in so much order that you Israelite women gonna be in the kingdom of heaven, and how familiar you gonna be with your man, with your husband, because your desire is gonna be unto him, and you're gonna know everything that he likes. So you're gonna know that your husband is into women with big breasts, big butt. All right, he likes certain women with full lips. The whole makeup, which you're gonna know what your man is into. Okay, and you're gonna be looking at the daughters of the other nation, picking them out concubines for your husband. All right. So King Solomon dealt with Pharaoh's daughter, who was a Hamite, right, an Egyptian. It says women of the Moabites, which those are Chinese, Ammonites, which those are Japanese, Edomites, okay, even so-called white women, Caucasian women. King Solomon was dealing with them as well. All right. Sidonians and Hittites, which those are Hamites. All right. Those are Hamites. So we're going to have women that are Hamites. We're going to have women of the other nations. Okay. All right. King Solomon was a king renowned for his wisdom. Okay. He was a righteous king. All right. It reads on to say, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. Okay, so the reason why the Lord told us not to deal with these women of the other nations in the beginning is because the women of the other nations was gonna turn them away from worshiping the Most High and have them worshiping their gods. All right, and you see that today with a lot of jakes out there that get involved with these women that are in the church, all right, and then they wind up going to church, all right. You know, they wind up becoming goddamn Roman Catholic or a Christian or a Baptist or whatever faith that their woman is involved in. Okay, all right. So King Solomon went off for worshiping the gods of the women of the other nations, not for dealing with them. Okay, not because he was popping the women of the other nations, because he fell in love with these women and he got weak and started worshiping their gods. All right, that's where King Solomon went off at. But in the kingdom, we ain't gonna worry about that, because we ain't gonna never worship no other gods, none of the gods of the other nations. All right, the Lord is gonna change our spirit. He's gonna give us brand new bodies, okay, and give us a fleshly heart, wherein we're gonna only acknowledge and worship Him, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. All right, so we ain't gonna worship no other gods. All right, so there's not gonna be no woman of the other nations that can deter us from worshiping the Heavenly Father and His Son. All right, so I just wanted to make this video quick. You know, the point is, we're gonna have concubines, women of the other nations, in the kingdom of heaven. All right, so I'm gonna end this video on that note. Say shalom while we're rocking to you brothers out there. Lord willing, I'll see you in the next one. Shalom.